This is James Volpe Rotondi with Acoustic Guitar Magazine, and I am holding the lovely Taylor 814 CE Builder's Edition, which is a sort of improved, perhaps, or added to or embellished version of the Flagship 814 CE that is typically on the market. There are two notable things that make this a builder's edition. One of them is the fact that it has a very interesting Adirondack spruce top. Now, specifically, it has a 4-piece Adirondack spruce top. Now, we generally hear about a solid top, which very often really is a solid piece of wood cut into 2 pieces and then book matched. This is, in a sense, a double book match, where you're working off the same piece of wood, but you've created 4 pieces out of it. Now, there may be purists who sniff at that a little bit, but I think the idea is sound, and certainly Taylor has done an exceptional job of making sure that you're not gonna, certainly not aesthetically are you gonna see a seam on here. You can probably pick out the center seam as you can with just about any guitar, but boy, that is a pretty masterful job of creating essentially a solid top from 4 pieces of wood. The other notable feature on this that's a bit new is over here with my left hand, and that is a beveled Venetian cutaway. Cutaways are interesting for some players. I'm not typically a fan of them myself, but I have to say the beveled cutaway on this, where you have essentially, you know, the sides are moving up, but instead of simply coming to a 90-degree angle here, they actually bevel off in more of a 45-degree angle at a nice curve. It's very, very comfortable. I mean, it just is. That same beveling sort of 45-degree angle surface, if you will, rather than edge, is right here, so that keeps your fretting arm really comfortable as well. Matched with a neck made of neotropical mahogany, 25.5-inch scale, and a 1 3/4 inch tusk nut with decent string spacing, I have to say. What you will immediately find is this is, along with its interesting enhancements, it's just a really playable guitar. And for an acoustic guitar especially, it just has this in other words, electric players are going to pick this up and say, hey, I can bend. And while I was in an alternate tuning earlier, I'm in standard tuning now. You can bend strings. You can play quite fast on this guitar. It would be great for bluegrass flat pickers. Although, and I also think it's beautiful for sort of bossa nova-y kind of chords. And in both these cases, it's partly because, while this is a very good guitar, it's also a guitar with a fairly compact EQ range, okay? It does not really have those super coppery, bronzy highs that you expect out of kind of a 90s Taylor, which were very bright. That's a nice, warm, balanced sound, but it isn't exactly all that sort of zingy upper transience you would get out of that sort of classic Taylor sound. And yet, it's not boomy either. This is not a dreadnought, so I mean, there's certainly a bass frequencies in there, but you're not getting the boom out of this that you're going to get out of plenty of other Taylors, or Martins, or Laraves, or Santa Cruz, or whatever your preference is. That said, this makes it an excellent guitar for recording, because you have that sort of classic, sort of tight mid-range. Has a very delivers that nice, even mid-range that sits beautifully in a recording. And of course, by having a little less woof in the low end, it's also less likely to give you woofy feedback. So instead of, playing those low notes, and all of a sudden you hear the monitors going, and the sound man has to jump on the fader, you're probably not going to get much out of that. If your acoustic preamp has some kind of, a feedback notch, you may well use it, but you may not need it, especially with a guitar like this, which, by the way, has that wonderful Taylor ES2 electronics system in here, which sounds great through a couple different amps I had here, including my VHT 60-watt acoustic amp. And it's a lot of guitar for a professional player who wants, in my opinion, something that's great for recording, great for on the road, great for not feeding back during full mixes with a band, etc. However, my only caveat with this very beautifully appointed guitar with beautiful abalone on it and these gorgeous sort of antique style tuners and lots of beautiful inlay work. I mean, it's got some nice bling. And in that sense, it may well justify the price tag, which is somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000, right around the middle. Although I think, for me, if you're looking kind of for that heirloom guitar that you want to sound great just in the living room, without plugging it in, without recording it, without taking it out on stage, you just want that sort of heirloom acoustic that sounds big and bodacious in the living room, I'm not sure this is going to be your weapon of choice. This is, in my opinion, a very great working guitar for a high-level working player who really wants something that's going to engage well with all the different environments that they play in professionally. It may also make a very good songwriter's guitar because it has a nice intimate feel. It's easy to play, and also it has a cozy sound, especially when, like I said, you get in here. And it has some nice character in these areas as well. So that's my take on this guitar. Extremely playable, beautifully sculpted mid-range, maybe not as much of the low-end impact as you might want, especially in your living room where you kind of want that very wide dynamic range. But again, a beautifully constructed, exceedingly playable guitar made of profoundly excellent materials, and this slightly quixotic 4-piece Adirondack spruce top. If you don't know much about Adirondack, it's known for having a very sort of tight sound, which opens up over time. You may not find this the warmest guitar on first blush, but that is kind of the reputation of Adirondack in general, which is why many of those pre-war Adirondack spruce acoustic guitars that you run across at conventions for many thousands of dollars actually sound so good because they've had a long time to open up. And this guitar certainly will do that as well. Again, the Taylor 814 CE Builder's Edition with 4-piece Adirondack spruce top, beveled Venetian cutaway, and a lot of beautifully fine appointments. So a pro guitar from Taylor, no surprise. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you next time. Again, I'm James Volpe Rotondi for Acoustic Guitar Magazine. Go to acousticguitar.com to find this piece and many other pieces about the wonderful world of acoustic guitar, and I'll see you out on the road with Zoso, the ultimate Led Zeppelin experience, okay? Thanks to my friends at Acoustic Guitar.